Okay, let's see if I can make this one come up a treat. I think colour-wise it's quite boring, so wondering what we're going to do to it. I don't know how big we're going to make. I'll make it 200. I think 200 is a good size. That should be simple enough. So this machine's making very strange noise. It's not sounding too good. This damn machine isn't. I think Konica Minolta have really fucked up. They just don't care about the quality of their products. But then most companies that make electronics and shit like that typically don't care about the product. They just care about the amount of money it can generate for the rich people that run the company, the shareholders and all that sort of bullshit. So you can't really do much about it at this stage, except when I'm using this machine to sort of call out Konica Minolta on the faults that this machine has, or the noises that make this machine sound faulty. I have to call them out on it, because if I don't, no one else will. Someone's got to point these rich people out and show the world how fucked they are and stupid they are. Don't become fangirls. I used to be a fangirl of Xerox, Konica Ubix and shit like that, but I'm no longer a fangirl. I'm more likely to offer criticism, constructive and very unpleasant sort of criticisms, but that's the way the cookie crumbles, I'm afraid. And these people who run the companies are a bunch of assholes, and I'll call them out. I'll fucking show the world on YouTube and Facebook and shit like that. Just like any other person who's got a gripe against an organisation or a rich person. Well, an organisation like Konica Minolta for me, but there's other people who don't like how a lot of things are being run in this day and age. Everything's for profit. Everything has a dollar sign. A monetary value. Now that's a really strange looking result. Now that looks really strange. We're going to use that. That looks good. So now we're going to return. This is of course a Bauer 1 and 6 has a hearing loss. And that's another thing. Why don't people who are deaf, why can't they all have a cochlear implant? Everyone should have the ability to hear. And this is not so much to do with deaf people, but this is still to do with hearing loss. And I'm really annoyed that people who need cochlear implants are often denied access. I know of on the Sydney streets, I've seen two people who are homeless, and they're both deaf. And they both say on their placards that they're deaf. That is really bad. They should have access to a cochlear implant, and maybe then they can find a job somehow if they can manage, if there's enough jobs to be found, if they can have cochlear implants. And being on the street as well is extremely dangerous, even for somebody who could hear. These people are so vulnerable. These people could end up being mugged, and they wouldn't know about it until it was too fucking late. It's not fucking fair that companies like Cochlear don't offer free implants for those who can't afford to pay for the cost. They're the ones that made the implants. They should fucking make them available to everyone, not just to the filthy rich. How many people with disabilities has access to a few $1,000s? There's not many of us who are rich, so therefore we should get these fucking services for nothing, for free, because otherwise we can't contribute to society. We can't contribute to society, and we're useless, and we feel useless, and we feel discarded, and and some don't want to live anymore. Seriously, if only Cochlear makes, how can they keep themselves in business if they don't have people using their product. I mean, I know they have to give it away for free or cheap, but surely they can make money out of repair jobs on the devices if they ever fail. I mean, why bother having this technology when people, like, also people with missing limbs? We know there's actually, bionic technology for missing arms and missing legs, especially missing arms, actually exists. And there's heaps of scientific communities who offer people with missing limbs a trial of their bionic prosthesis. Why can't these bionic prostheses be available to everyone? Why is it only, again, the rich or just for trial? And then once the trial is over, or once the thing breaks down, you don't have a usable limb anymore and you have to go back to being disabled again, and that's really hard. Why can't people with missing limbs automatically get bionic limbs? I mean, how hard it would be to get dressed with one arm. I couldn't do it. I wouldn't cope if it was me. It's not fair, because rich people just control everything and they don't care about the disabled, the poor, the sick. These rich people like Konica Minolta, I point the finger at you, KM. I mean, if you gave 10% of your fucking earnings for good causes, well, maybe there'd be less of these problems. There'd be less of these problems if you bitches and rich bitches could hand out money. You'd actually end up being called heroes, and you wouldn't have tub thumpers like me constantly criticising you and your fucking products. Maybe a bit of common sense could go a long, long way for companies like Konica Minolta. Honestly, I've got no fucking respect for them. I had a machine and it broke down, and then because the spare parts were no longer available, the company who leased it to me couldn't keep it on a service agreement because Konica Minolta's fault that they didn't have the spare parts for it anymore. And Mitronics, the company, couldn't guarantee me spare parts, so it wasn't worth me paying for it. And I had to take out a fucking bank loan to get this piece of shit. And now I have to I'm trying to get recognised because I myself have disabilities. And this shows that even with a disability, I can achieve something. And I wish my father would see that this is what I'm good at, instead of treating me like shit and expecting me to be normal. I mean, seriously. I mean, if I had a brain prosthesis, if I had a prosthetic for my short-term memory and my hippocampus, for example, I could work in a normal job. I could be a CEO. I could be a scientist. But because my short-term memory and my hippocampus, along with other stuff, was damaged at birth during having a cord around my neck and a breech birth, these things became unachievable, and I got bullied to death. I got bullied and bullied and bullied. The teachers got angry at me for not doing my homework, but who wants to do homework if you fucking can't do it, or schoolwork? I hated school. I got bullied by the students, and the teachers were mostly nice to me, but I kept getting into trouble for not doing my assignments or my maths. I hated school, and that was because if I had a fucking neuroprosthesis then, I could have avoided being bullied. I could have made my parents happy. I could have done this and I could have done that. But now I sit on a disability pension. I work in a sheltered workshop. I'm not contented. I want to be fully functional. But no, the technology hasn't even been, unfortunately for people like me, I mean, people with cochlear implants or people who are deaf, people who have got missing limbs, the technology is available. It's just not being distributed properly because of greed. But for me, the technology hasn't even arrived yet, so I can't blame Cochlear. I can't blame these companies that make these prosthetic limbs. I can't blame them. I can only just blame whatever's stopping this research from going through. But I'd kill if I could have a fucking functioning brain, fully functioning brain. But I can't. I have to accept what I've got and capitalise, so to speak, on what I can do. What I can do, forget about what I can't do, at least for now, until such time as the technology arrives and I've somehow made a mark in this world, even without a fully functional brain. I will get married to my future husband, Luigi, and we've got lots of things we want to achieve together. And I'm sure my dad will be happy once I marry, because he'll see that as some kind of achievement of normalcy. Anyway, enough about this. I've got to go.